Here comes Tony, walking in the room, mic in hand, something about to boom. Tell me what you gotta say. Tell me, make it count today. Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Sit right down, let me hear your voice. Share your thoughts, Tony gives you choice. Tell me what you gotta say. Tell me, make it count today. You always speak, Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony speaks. He got something to say every single day. He's got something to say. Come on out and play. Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony. Big Tony speaks.
What is going on, everyone? Hope you're doing well this fine Monday. I'm doing all right myself. Still feeling a little bit under the weather, but not too bad. And I am still here for you all. So, we've got to talk about this travesty that was a halftime show at the Super Bowl. You know, Bad Bunny. Even though he didn't show up in a dress, as was reported that he was going to, it still was a glorified mess. Mr., and I use that term loosely, Bunny, did an entire halftime show in Spanish, alienating most of the people there at the Super Bowl. The crowd was bored and sitting there scrolling, social media and whatnot on their phones and whatnot. It was crickets, with the exception of some boos. Of course, if you watched it, that the whole thing was staged specifically for the camera. They didn't even bother to show the crowd or anything like that. It was the whole thing was staged simply for the camera. He had this kind of maze thing set up in the middle of the field, and he was running all around in it. Plus, he was cutting to video clips and all kinds of stuff. And I don't know, it was ridiculous. And of course, I had it on because I wanted to see the Super Bowl. But I turned the volume down and watched TPUSA halftime show. So, I know what he did and everything. I know it was all in Spanish because my closed captioning came on, and it didn't translate it. It just told me what he was saying in Spanish. And, well, I don't speak Spanish, so. But Yeah, that's kind of my job, is to know what is going on the left. So I kind of had to have it on anyway, and kind of halfway see what it was about and everything, and what the reaction of the crowd was, and all of that, you know. And I do know, however, that TPUSA, their halftime show, I believe, broke the record for number two uh, live stream on YouTube of all time. Not number one, but this is their first year, first time they've ever done it. So just wait till next year. They actually do it live, and have some larger talent, on their halftime show. Make it bigger and better, and etc. A little huge crowd, and you know, uh, even better talent than what they had, which they had some great talent on there. Kid Rock, of course, you know. But I mean, it could have been, in my opinion, could have been a whole lot better. But again, this is their first time doing it. They're just getting uh, their legs, so to speak, in this forum, the halftime show. And I expect that next year there will probably not just be TPUSA, but some other organizations doing their own halftime shows as well, because we as Americans have found out that we can't count on the NFL to cater to its own base, its own fan base. They're gonna cater to the woke, who most of the woke don't even care about football. So, um, but anyway, I just figured I would at least touch on that today, considering that it just happened, and everyone else is talking about it. So I figured I would at least touch on it. Yeah, they have become trash. Yes, once one of the greatest events of the entire year, every year, you know, has become nothing more than a platform for the left, and they don't care about their own fans. So what is going on, James and Larry? Glad to see you both in the chat. But yeah, I had to at least touch on that, because it is, it's a major thing, here in America. And to have, a foreigner, you know, who refuses to speak the language, who refuses to perform in the native language of this country, the official language of this country, you know, um, and who is doing nothing but placating to the left. I mean, for Christ's sake, he even had two men simulating sex, you know, in his little show. I mean, all the rest of it, I maybe could have tolerated, outside of it being completely in Spanish. But having two men literally simulating sex on a family show, the Super Bowl is a family show. I can remember as a kid, I would sit down with actually multiple generations of my family to watch the Super Bowl, you know, and enjoy the halftime show and all of that. It is a family show, and yet that's why Janet Jackson caught so much flack when she had her quote wardrobe malfunction and her breast came flopping out. You know, of course, that was staged. That was meant to happen. But she caught a lot of flack for that. And the reason is it's a family show. You know, they can't be having stuff like that. They can't be having two men simulating sex. You know, I mean, even though it is just simulation, it's, immediately some little kid watching the Super Bowl and seeing the halftime show is going to turn to his parents, you know, Mommy, Daddy, what's that man doing to that other man? You know, and the way they were doing it, you can't say, well, they're just play wrestling, whatever, No, that was kind of obvious what they were doing. I mean, yeah, Kid Rock was awesome. All the other acts on the TPUSA uh, halftime show were great, and like I said, they I believe at the final count, and they're still gaining views because a lot of people um, are going back and watching the TPUSA halftime show on replay. So the count is still going up, but at the time of the halftime show, if I'm not mistaken, they announced that they were number two all time record highest viewed live stream. So that's freaking awesome, especially for their first time out, their first time doing it ever. I expect that next year will be even bigger and better than this one and may actually take the actual highest viewed live stream ever on its second year. I really think so. You know, they have actually broken the wall, the barrier to alternative entertainment. Okay, by literally doing an alternative to the NFL halftime show, they have they have broken that wall. With such a huge viewer count, um, that you know people kind of now are probably going to be expecting alternative entertainment, in the mainstream now. So look out for a whole lot more companies popping up and a whole lot more alternatives to the woke BS that we're being subjected to these days. You know, that's my prediction. We're going to start seeing more and more companies offering alternatives to the woke. And watch TPUSA, break into this alternative entertainment medium and knock it out of the park. At least I think. That's my opinion. Anyway, um, got a few different things to talk about today on this show, on this episode. Um, First up, well, we already talked about the halftime show, so that's out of the way. First up is hey, why isn't it popping up? It's supposed to be popping up. There. didn't want to it didn't want to come up. So, young woman set ablaze on Chicago train by man who was arrested 72 times. You remember her, right? She breaks her silence as she is released from the hospital. Now, this happened actually a while back. I reported on it. Um, and she is now being released from the hospital, and she's speaking on it. Uh, a young woman who was burned by violent felon just over 2 months ago, yeah, that's about right, on a Chicago train has broken her silence and been finally released from the hospital. The Gateway Pundit reported back in November that a lowlife with 72 prior arrests doused a woman with a flammable liquid and set her ablaze on a Chicago train. 50-year-old Lawrence Reed was hit with federal terrorism charges after he set a 26-year-old woman, later identified as Bethany McGee, on fire aboard the Blue Line. The deranged maniac repeatedly yelled, quote, "Burn, bitch," as the victim repeatedly rolled around trying to put out the fire. McGee was hospitalized with severe injuries for months, with no word from her or an update on her condition until now. On Friday, McGee released a statement that was obtained by the outlet after being released from Stroger Hospital in Chicago. In it, she expressed her gratitude and thanked everyone, including the hospital staff who had cared for her. Um, Quote, "My family and I are grateful to be able to celebrate this milestone, and we want to sincerely thank everyone who has offered support, kindness, and encouragement during this time," McGee said. "I am especially thankful to the burn team at Stroger Hospital for their exceptional care, compassion, and expertise, as well as for the support they showed my family throughout my hospitalization," she added. McGee did not give an update on her condition, nor did she have anything to say about the monster who put her in the hospital to begin with. This horrifying incident could have been easily prevented had one judge done her job and kept Reed in jail beforehand. Following Reed's 72nd arrest in August, for which he was accused of assaulting a security worker, CBS News revealed that Cook County Judge Teresa Molina Gonzalez ignored a Cook County Assistant State's Attorney's dire warning on August 22nd that Reed had a lengthy criminal history and that his next crime would likely be violent. The attorney added that electric monitoring, quote, "could not protect the victim or the community from another vicious, random, and spontaneous attack." Instead, Molina Gonzalez allowed Reed to walk free with an ankle monitor and had this callous response for why. Quote, "I can't keep everybody in jail because the state's attorney wants me to," she claimed. "But you can keep violent offenders in jail." Because of this, McGee came close to losing her life. All right, so that's an update on her. I reported a couple of months ago about this, and there was an update, and I brought it to you as I promised. This is actually the first update that has come out in regards to her at all, but it is also, in a way, um, an update to her condition. If she is being released to go home and be with her family, then she is doing very well. She has responded well to treatment, and I am sure she probably had to go through a good bit of therapy and etc. before they would release her to go home. So I don't know the extent of her injuries. Those were never actually released, the description and extent of her injuries, but I am sure since she was doused in a flammable liquid and set on fire, that those burns were probably quite extensive. So there you go. My opinion is, all of these woke, uh, Soros funded and evil rogue judges that are not following the law, you know because crimes such as this, and a crime with a terrorism modifier, you know there is there is a minimum sentence. There's a maximum sentence, but there's also a minimum sentence for these crimes. You don't just let somebody walk free on an ankle monitor. No, 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 no. These people are the ones that you keep in jail. You know, and and that is what the state's attorney was trying to impress upon the judge, that hey, this is a violent criminal. You don't just release violent criminals onto the streets, ankle monitor or not, because those ankle monitors really mean nothing. I have known so many people, that were released on ankle monitors and they just took them off and went and did whatever they want anyway. You know, I mean, you can Google, how to get those off and make it look like you're still wearing it. You know, so yeah, let's move on to the next one. If anyone's got any questions, comments, opinions, whatever about this story, go ahead and talk about them in the chat. Um, I do pay attention to that chat, so as most of you know, and you know, anything, any comments that you have on any of the stories I present tonight, you can talk about at any time during the show. It doesn't matter, if I'm talking about something else or not. By the way, y'all do me a favor and go down below and hit that thumbs up on both platforms, YouTube and Rumble, because it is a thumbs up in both places. No matter what you call it, it's a thumbs up. So go ahead and hit that thumbs up, show me some love. And while you're down there, if you're not already following the channel, um, go ahead and hit that follow button, and hit that notification bell. Smash it like it owes you money and refuses to pay, and that way you know when I'm coming on both platforms. That bell is the same on both platforms. Beverly, she was set on fire back in it was either October or November, because I reported on it shortly thereafter. The man had just recently been arrested and released by a judge in August. So he literally turned around and did this crime, set this woman on fire on the train in front of people, and repeatedly was saying "burn bitch" over and over, and he tried to just walk away, but he was caught. So, and yes, people are crazy. They are very crazy. It's the reason I wear this hat. Make asylums great again. It all goes back to the defunding of the mental health system. It has caused a plague, a generational plague of mental illness in our country. So, and I've gone into that multiple times on this show, um, on a number of episodes. So if you want to learn all about that, go back and watch my previous episodes. Um, and I'll eventually do another one about make asylums great again. But Mr. Donald J. Trump signed an executive order to make asylums great again. So I'm happy about that. I just want him to actually take action and make asylums great again. Let's move on to the next story here. Get it all ready for you all. There we go. Here's an update on the whole Don Lemon Peel. A college student flips on Don Lemon Peel after being arrested for his role in the storming of the church in St. Paul. And this is the young astronaut here, young rocket scientist here. 21-year-old Temple University student Jerome Richardson flipped on Don Lemon Peel after being arrested for his role in storming a church in St. Paul. So, former CNN hack Don Lemon Peel has been betrayed by one of his fellow rioters after participating in the storming of a church in St. Paul last month. A 21-year-old Temple University student named Jerome D'Angelo Richardson surrendered on federal charges on Sunday, along with Ian Davis Austin. Richardson is accused of conspiring to interfere with religious worship. And here is Fox News post on X. Breaking: federal agents arrest two more people, Ian Davis Austin and Jerome D'Angelo Richardson, in connection to Minnesota church storming, Attorney General Pam Bondi announces. And here is her announcement right there. She says, if you riot in a place of worship, we will find you. When the young man turned himself in, he threw Lemon Peel completely under the bus. Richardson admitted to authorities that he helped Lemon Peel with logistics and contacts in the days leading up to the anti-ICE protests. Lemon Peel has consistently claimed he was, quote, just reporting. Yeah, he said famously he committed an act of journalism, which is absolutely not what he was doing. The new arrest of Richardson blows up Lemon Peel's defense, showing active planning rather than mere reporting. He was trying to create the news, as his former home at CNN is wont to do. They have been caught many times creating the news and claiming to report on it. So this is, a tactic right out of the CNN playbook, and it's exactly what Don Lemon Peel was doing. And in doing so, he committed multiple felonies, including violation of the FACE Act. David Harris Jr. posted on X, whoa, leftist student flips on Don Lemon Peel. Jerome Jerome D'Angelo Richardson, 21, admits he helped Don Lemon Peel plan the anti-ICE church disruption in Minnesota. Prosecutors say this new arrest undercuts that defense, suggesting planning and not just passive coverage. And here is video.
Arrest is drawing attention to what prosecutors say was Don Lemon's role in planning and recording the disturbing protest of demonstrators storming that Minnesota church service. A Temple University student has now surrendered on federal charges, admitting he helped Don Lemon with logistics and local contacts ahead of that anti-ICE protest. Jerome Richardson, a political science senior, turned himself in and is accused of conspiring to interfere with religious worship. Court records and social media posts show Richardson describing himself as assisting Don Lemon in the days leading up to the protest. Lemon, who claims he was just reporting, was arrested last week and released, but prosecutors say this new arrest undercuts that defense, suggesting planning and not just passive coverage. A new investigation reveals the network of anti-ICE agitators across Minneapolis was highly organized, well-funded, and carefully coordinated. The City Journal, which reported the original story about widespread Minnesota fraud last fall, published a new report which states a well-funded network of professional activists arranged and mapped out the demonstrations with a master plan to do the same in other cities. The report exposed one group called Defend the 612, named for the Minneapolis area code. It stated City Journal reviewed Defend the 612's trainings and entered its signal network and traced its organizational support. Our reporting reveals that members and related officials have encouraged protesters to impede law enforcement, pushed civilians toward legally and physically risky confrontations, and helped mobilize a counter-protest that turned violent. The trainings instruct attendees how to identify, document, and alert others to immigration enforcement and to relay information through network-based signal networks. Public officials now also confirming their involvement. Marcia Howard, president of the Minneapolis Federation of Educators, said in a recent interview she participates in these signal group chats regularly, admitting the support reaches the highest levels of leadership.
The notion that people that are actively engaged in ICE Watch, in being vigilant in protecting our neighbors, in signal chat groups, running plates in their cars, doing patrols, that somehow we're ashamed of that activity, that somehow you could call our bosses
activity is
or
illegal.
show our faces and then we would be shunned by our community. Our bosses are in the signal chats with us. Our elected officials are in the chats with us.
Missouri Senator Josh Hawley has formally requested the Justice Department to investigate the groups that were listed in that report.
Now, you heard that. She literally admitted, she literally said that, they were proud to be part of that and that their bosses and elected officials were all part of it as well. That implicates literally everybody. That literally implicates Jacob Fry, Tim Walz, Ilhan Omar, and Keith Ellison, as well as other elected officials and officials in government. So, I mean, does she not realize, she said that they were proud of that activity and they owned it and everything. So she obviously realizes that that activity was illegal, and because they are not law enforcement, they don't have the right to do all that, and that activity is illegal. And she just literally implicated everybody in government as having committed crimes. So hopefully all of them are prepared to be prosecuted. Now, I am not saying, as I've said many times, I do not expect there to be any actual accountability. However, I do believe that the right and the Trump administration can make it extremely difficult for these people to live. Um, they can get them out of office, out of their jobs for the government. They can um, spread the word that these people are traitors to the country, and they are criminals, and make it clear to the entire country, that this is not the kind of person that you want employed by your organization. So, of course, with the whole Epstein files, we've been seeing CEOs and high level executives in many organizations resigning because of their involvement in the whole Epstein saga, in the whole Epstein uh, criminal organization. Because whether you're a customer or a participant, you are still involved in that organization and involved in the crime. So, you know that, along with this and the rampant fraud in Minnesota and elsewhere, um, plus they have made public that they do have plans to use this exact same model, which is completely illegal, um, following and intimidating people, um, recording tag numbers and running those tag numbers. They don't have the right to do that. Only law enforcement has the right to do that. Now, you can report a tag number to law enforcement if you see them committing a crime, and law enforcement can run that tag. But you yourself, that's a violation of privacy. You don't have the right to do that. So, as the Gateway Pundit previously reported, radical anti-ICE agitators stormed City's church in St. Paul on January 18th, interrupting Christians in the middle of worship. Instead of condemning the mob's conduct or defending the constitutional right to religious assembly, Lemon Peel inserted himself into the chaos live, streaming the scene and aggressively confronting congregants who were already shaken by the intrusion. Quote, "This is the beginning of what's going to happen here," Lemon Peel said as anti-ICE protesters shouted down the pastor and harassed parishioners. Video later revealed that Lemon Peel admitted to having prior knowledge of protesters' plans. He was actually apparently one of the planners. He was creating the news, as his training from CNN trains him to do. Lemon Peel was arrested for helping coordinate the attack on the church back on January 30th. He was released without bail later that day. And he did a video. I don't have it queued up today. I just literally thought about it. I remembered it as we were going through this story. He released a video on X stating that he was about to become even more radical. So, if he's willing to commit federal crimes and multiple felonies and film it. And he is about to become even more radical. This man is a danger to the public. They need to go arrest him and not release him. No bail, no nothing. Go straight to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You know, keep him in jail until his court date. You know, and go from there. That's my opinion. And another piece of opinion of mine is, he claimed that he was only doing an act of journalism. That man has not been a journalist in a long, long time. So he was lying. People have forgotten what journalism really is. And the the media, including us, including social media, needs to get back to actual true journalism, in my opinion. So that's my opinion. What's yours? Tell me in the chat. And if you're watching on replay, tell me in the comments. I do read those comments. Up next, let's see. We have. Oh, yeah. You'll remember this one I reported on not too long ago. Let me get this ad out the way here. Supposedly autistic woman's tale of being abused and arrested by ICE officers for no reason blows up in her face when this damning footage emerges. You remember her, right? She's the one that decided to try to block ICE in and got pulled out of her car because she refused to follow orders and move along. She is liberal activist Aliyah Rahman. She testifies before a congressional panel on Tuesday regarding her experience with ICE. A left-wing activist's, quote, gut-wrenching testimony about getting arrested by ICE agents last month has so spectacularly backfired that she might find herself in legal hot water. Aliyah Rahman, an American citizen and allegedly autistic, told a congressional panel on Tuesday she was on her way to an appointment with Hennepin County's Traumatic Brain Injury Center last month when she encountered ICE agents supposedly blocking the road and had no way of getting around them. She then said she was forced to pull into a blocked intersection after an ICE agent allegedly yelled, quote, "Move, I will break your effing window." Rahman went on to say she received conflicting threats from agents, which confused her. The agents then busted her window and dragged her out of the car. I showed you all that video. The only true part of it is them busting her window and dragging her out of the car. When Rahman told the agent she was disabled, one agent supposedly replied, "Too late." No, it was not when, and that's part of the video that I showed you all. She said that she would move the car, and at the time when she said she would move the car, an agent replied to her, "It's too late for that. You already forced them to drag you out of the car and put you under arrest. It's too late to move the car now." You know, she next described her supposed pain while the cops pulled her away and then claimed without evidence that she was denied access to medical care. And here she is.
On January 13th, on the way to my 39th appointment at Hennepin County's Traumatic Brain Injury Center, I encountered a traffic jam caused by ICE vehicles and no signs indicating how to get around it. I had not wanted to pull into a blocked, chaotic intersection, but verbally agreed to do so and rolled down my window after an agent yelled, "Move! I will break your effing window!" Agents on all sides of my vehicle yelled conflicting threats and instructions that I could not process while watching for pedestrians. Then the glass of the passenger side window flew across my face. I yelled, "I'm disabled," at the hands grabbing at me, and an agent said, "Too late." I was carried face down through the street by my cuffed arms and legs while yelling that I had a brain injury and was disabled. I now cannot lift my arms normally. Approaching the Whipple Center, I saw black and brown bodies shackled together, chained together, being marched by yelling agents outdoors. I continue to hear the word bodies because that is how agents refer to us. We're bringing in a body. They're bringing in bodies, 7, 8 at a time. Where do I put them? We can't use that room. There's already a body in there. You have no reason to believe you will make it out alive if you are already being called a body. I pleaded for emergency medical care for over an hour after my vision had become blurry, my heart rate went through the roof, and the pain in my neck and head became unbearable. It was denied. The impacts of DHS detention on my physical, mental, and financial well-being and safety have been very severe, but I do not deserve more humane treatment than anyone else, US citizen or not. And I am here today with a strong spirit and a duty to the many people who haven't had the privilege to tell their stories or see their loved ones come home. We call ourselves a civilized nation, but we lack rules and accountability around what a person claiming to be law enforcement is permitted to do to another human being.
Okay, so you heard that. On Friday, the ICE X account shared another angle of the incident, painting a very different picture. Rahman did indeed have time to maneuver around the ICE agents. Instead, she stayed put and attempted to obstruct their activities. Quote, "Unfortunately for the media, we have the receipts. As shown in our video, Aaliyah Rahman clearly had enough room to move herself and her vehicle out of the way," the post reads. Quote, "Officers even walked away from her vehicle thinking she was going to leave the scene." The post continues, "Instead, she remained at the location, continued to impede our officers, and found out the hard way." Title 18 USC subsection 111 criminalizes impeding or interfering with federal officers. Pretty damning evidence. And you see right there, ICE agent walking away from the vehicle, thinking she was going to move, which she did not. And here you see, I'm going to
vehicles and no signs indicating how to get around it.
Hang on. We're going to start from the beginning. This is playing video at the scene along with her testimony. So,
On January 13th, on the way to my 39th appointment at Hennepin County's Traumatic Brain Injury Center, I encountered a traffic jam caused by ICE vehicles and no signs indicating how to get around it. I had not wanted to pull into a blocked, chaotic intersection, but verbally agreed to do so and rolled down my window after an agent yelled, "Move! I will break your effing window!" Agents on all sides of my vehicle yelled conflicting threats and instructions that I could not process while watching for pedestrians. Then the glass of the passenger side window flew across my face. I yelled, "I'm disabled," at the hands grabbing at me, and an agent said, "Too late." An agent pulled a large combat knife in front of my face, which I thought was for cutting me, and later learned was used to cut off my seatbelt. Shooting pain went through my head, neck, and wrists when I hit the ground face first and people leaned on my back. I was carried face down through the street by my cuffed arms and legs while yelling that I had a brain injury and was disabled. I now cannot lift my arms normally.
so what do we all think of that? based on the video, Rahman should be investigated for committing perjury. But when was the last time a liberal was held accountable in that fashion? She completely lied to Congress. That was a sworn statement that she made. So, my opinion is really as it actually happened. She decided that she was going to be an activist. She was going to get in on the action. She was going to block them in. And when they swarmed around the vehicle, she didn't want them putting their hands on her. So she, moved the car a couple of times, but kept it in a position where the road was blocked off and, she was distracting agents from their actual job. She refused to move, and she found out. She was pulled from the car, and she may actually have a brain injury. Now, I don't think in the slightest that she is autistic. I don't. I think that's a self-diagnosis, and because there are so many self-diagnoses of autism going on now. Just look at TikTok. You could see thousands of people who have self-diagnosed. They are not actually autistic. They have not been diagnosed by a doctor. They have self-diagnosed. So, I don't in the slightest think that this woman is actually autistic. Now it's possible she may have an actual brain injury. It didn't come from ice, and hey, she may have injuries resulting from the arrest. Again, all of that she caused upon herself. Had she simply just pulled forward, drove on through, and left the scene when she was told to do so, then all of this would not even be a subject to be spoken about. And that is the case with all of these of these so-called victims of ICE. They are not victims of ICE. They're victims of their own actions. I'm sorry. I cannot have sympathy for them or empathy for that matter because they brought it upon their own self. So that's my opinion. Let me know yours in the chat, and if you're watching on replay, let me know in the comments. So, by the way, just so you all know, I don't edit my live streams when they go up for replay. I don't edit them. If I get threats from YouTube, then I will just take the video down, so you won't even get to see it as a replay, as a standalone video. But I don't edit. I refuse to edit. If you don't like me talking plainly, speaking plainly in the actual English language about what is happening and etc., then you are on the wrong channel. You need to go and hide out in the leftist echo chambers, and you need to stay away from channels such as mine. I know I'm not the only one. I do not edit my live streams at all. Um, I had a copyright claim put on uh, one of my standalone, one of my live streams that was on my channel as a standalone, and well, I refused to edit it. So they said, okay, well, your video will not be able to be viewed in certain areas. Fine, that's fine. I'm not going to edit. And the reason for that is because the copyrighted material was actually behind a person speaking. It was, the person was speaking, and the music was in the background of their speech. And well, had I edited the music out, I would have edited that person speaking out, and not going to do that. So I do not edit my live streams at all. So you will get to see the full live stream if you watch on replay. Just letting you all know, putting that out there into the ether, and that is also for YouTube to pay attention to. I refuse to be censored, because this is the United States, and I have freedom of speech as long as I don't incite violence, or make any kind of terroristic threats or anything of the like. So therefore, I am not going to be told what I can and can't say. I'm not going to speak in code. None of that ish and unalived and no, absolutely not. If it's shit, I'm going to say it's shit. If they killed themselves or someone killed them, I'm going to say they're dead. They're not unalived. They are dead. And if they did kill themselves, I am going to say they committed suicide, because that's what happened. If you can't handle, plain English language, go to some other channel, please. I want to grow this channel, but I don't need subscribers that bad that I have to modify my speech to accommodate you. I'm sorry, that's just not going to happen. I will take down my channel again. I've already done it once. I will take down my channel again, and not just not use it. Let it sit there. So, anyway, let's get on with the show. That was just kind of an aside, just putting it out there into the ether. Up next, ICE humiliates far left Boston Mayor Michelle Wu in epic fashion after she signs executive order barring agency from conducting, quote, unconstitutional and violent operations. And there is Michelle Wu. ICE agents delivered a humiliating and richly deserved blow to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu's ego on Friday, one day after she tried to hamstring them for doing their jobs. As WHDH reported, Wu signed an, quote, an executive order to protect Bostonians from unconstitutional and violent federal operations. What's going on, Patriot? Glad to see you in the chat. Specifically, the order bans federal officials, including ICE, from using city property for immigration enforcement operations. Wu's office says the order is designed, quote, to protect residents from illegal federal overreach, prioritizing de escalation, and reaffirms that Boston will hold anyone accountable who commits violence, property damage, or any criminal conduct in the city, including federal officials. Excuse me, y'all. Quote, the order confirms that the Boston Police Department will investigate all crimes committed in Boston, including those committed by federal agents, and if appropriate, we will make referrals to the city's local law enforcement partners, the Suffolk County District Attorney, and the Massachusetts Attorney General, Wu said in a statement obtained by WHDH. Quote, additionally, the order bars federal immigration agents from using, I'm sorry, from using city buildings, parking lots, and parks for their operations, bars immigration enforcement in non-public city spaces, and reaffirms that the city's public buildings, including schools, libraries, senior centers, and community centers, are available to residents for designated purposes only. She continued. Wu explained during a press conference that her executive order was in response to the actions of federal immigration enforcement and the deaths of Alex Preddy and Renee Good. She also whined that ICE agents were wearing masks to safeguard their identities, refusing to identify themselves, racially profiling residents, and not using body cameras. But ICE officers are treating the grandstanding order with exactly the respect it deserves. On Friday, ICE entered the Roslindale community in Boston to conduct enforcement activities. While there, they arrested an illegal alien out of his car after he apparently tried to get away. Adding insult to injury, Roslindale is the neighborhood in Boston where Wu lives. What a delicious twist of fate. Now, I do need to point out that she doesn't have the authority to tell federal agents what they can and can't do. So she is not the federal government, and she is not the president. And ICE agents are empowered. They get their power directly from the president. So she doesn't have that authority. I hear you. I'm feeling my age too. But here we have a conservative brief on X posting LMAO. Yesterday, Democrat Boston Mayor Michelle Wu signed an executive order banning ICE from operating in the city. They responded by going to Wu's own neighborhood and arresting a suspected illegal. And here is some video.
Boston's Roslindale community say the keys were left in the ignition of a car after ICE agents grabbed the driver outside a Family Dollar. These pictures were taken after a nearby business owner says he moved the car out of a lane of traffic on Corinth Street to stop it from getting towed.
I think it's kind of sloppy and seems like it just seems like a disorganized, hurried, scary way to operate, to just kind of think about taking somebody.
Oh, it's sloppy to arrest someone who's committing a crime. One can only imagine what went through Wu's mind after her scheme backfired in such spectacular fashion. As I said, these mayors, they don't have the authority to do these things that they think they're doing. You can ask Empty Pockets podcast James. You can ask him about what his mayor did. Signed a resolution into law trying to tell ICE that they could not wear their masks and they had to display their ID at all times. And yeah, even the mayor publicly admitted they could not enforce that. But they still did it. It's virtue signaling. It's, signaling to the voter base on the left, hey, I'm doing this thing. It's so big. It's so virtuous of me. Praise me. And then, you have ICE and they show you what that executive order or that resolution or whatever it may be is worth. It's, not even worth the paper it's printed on. And in fact, the paper it's printed on could have been used to wipe ICE's butt. That's my opinion. Share with me your opinions. Come on, jump in that chat and talk to me. I feed off the energy when the viewers talk to me in the chat. I actually like to have the conversation. So y'all jump in there, talk to me, both on YouTube and on Rumble. I am monitoring the chat on both platforms. Then we have this here. Anti-ICE protesters turn on Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. They staged a late night noise demonstration outside his home. That's where they go late at night and they take pots and pans and all kinds of implements to make loud noises. They have their bullhorns that have all kinds of sirens and sound effects on them, and they play them as loud as they can, and they shout through the bullhorns and shout with their voices as loud as they can, and just make irritating, aggravating noise all night long. Try to deprive you of your sleep. They also like to shine strobe lights on the windows and things like that to distract you from your sleep in case you might be putting some earplugs in your ears and ignoring the noise. They want to get you with the bright light. So, anti-ICE protesters gathered outside of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's residence in St. Paul on Friday night, accusing him of betraying their cause by cooperating with the Trump administration's immigration enforcement efforts. Yes, right. If they want to FA, they can FO. Absolutely, Patriot. Absolutely. If they want to F around, they can definitely find out. So we are more than happy to help them find out. More than happy, to demonstrate to them that there are consequences to your actions. That is something that Generation X, my generation, that's something we learned growing up, that there are always consequences to your actions. And that is one of the laws of physics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So you can't get around laws. So, specifically, the protesters expressed outrage over Walz's, quote, unprecedented cooperation. I knew there was a reason that Tom Homan kept repeating that unprecedented cooperation. He was telling the left, hey, your boss is a traitor all the way around. He's a traitor to the country and he's a traitor to you. So, with President Donald Trump and border czar Tom Homan, which reportedly led to a partial drawdown of ICE agents in the area. The protest, captured on video and shared on X, began around 8 p.m. local time. Roughly 50 to 100 people were in attendance. Frontlines TPUSA on X posted, happening now. Anti-ICE protesters are now attempting to keep Minnesota Governor Tim Walz awake as they have grown unhappy with his cooperation with President Trump and border czar Tom Homan. And here is that video.
Rapunzel, throw down your support for your voting base.
On! You have a lot of lights on. Dinner's got to be done by now. We haven't heard from you in a very long time.
They don't care if they hear from him. They are trying to punish him. That is their goal. He has betrayed them, and he deserves punishment in their estimation. And that is what they're attempting to do. The leftists used megaphones to taunt Walz and demand he reaffirm support for his, quote, voting base. The activists chanted and shouted phrases like, quote, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, throw down your support for your voting base. Quote, you have a lot of lights on. Dinner's got to be done by now. We haven't heard from you in a very long time, one protester yelled through a bullhorn. And then there is this video, and it's from Right Angle News Network. Breaking, leftists are now protesting outside Tim Walz's mansion in St. Paul, labeling him a traitor for cooperating with President Trump and Tom Homan.
Is this the best result that Governor Tim Walz and other elected officials could come up with after meetings behind closed doors with Tom Homan? Shame! Shame! Do not underestimate the power of the people of Minnesota.
Oh, wow. They're hilarious. Gunther Eagleman posted anti-ICE protesters are straight up trying to keep Minnesota Governor Tim Walz awake all night. They're furious that Tim Walz is cooperating with President Trump and border czar Tom Homan on immigration enforcement.
Rapunzel, throw down your support for your voting base.
Come on. You have a lot of lights on. Dinner's got to be done by now. We haven't heard from you in a very long time.
Speaking to TPUSA, one of the masked protesters said that they just wanted to come speak to them and be transparent. And here is that video. It says, exclusive, we were able to ask an anti-ICE protester his reasoning for being outside of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's house. This is what he said.
What would be your message to Tim Walz right now?
I mean, I just wanted him to come and talk to us. I mean, that's really it. Like, tell us what's going on, at least be a little transparent. We're transparent what we're asking for, so I just think he should be transparent back.
And do you feel as if Tim Walz has completely went against the left and the people that got him elected in the first place?
That's what it seems like right now. And I mean, but again, we don't know. I think we're just speculating, but it'd be nice to hear from him because it appears that way.
That's
having ICE show up to the government center and arrest two people that were meeting with their attorneys yesterday is a completely escalation, in my opinion.
And in your opinion, what can he do to mend what has been broken right now to make things right?
For me personally, it would just be transparent. Either way, be transparent with us. I think that's what I would look for. I think absolute escalation.
Conservatives, naturally, mocked the situation. Quote, the radical left is eating their own, town hall columnist Dustin Grage wrote. And here is his post. Now anti-ICE protesters are outside of Tim Walz's house with megaphones. The radical left is eating their own. Incredible. And same video we saw twice already. Quote, Tim Walz just got destroyed by the same anti-ICE mob he tried to appease. Protesters accusing him of bowing to Tom Homan and President Trump are now camped outside his house at night. Live by the mob, get burned, another ex-user wrote. And there's that post. And no rest for the wicked, as they say. And I do hope that they terrorize Tim Walz for the rest of his days as governor until he either resigns, is impeached, or gets convicted. I seriously doubt any actual accountability is going to be had on that front. Now he has said that he was never going to run for elected office again, and that is a good thing if he holds to his word. And I don't count on that either. Democrats are not known for keeping their word. So, what is your opinion on these anti-ICE protesters terrorizing Governor Tim Walz? I fully support it 100%. More power to them if they want to terrorize Tim Walz, because he deserves to be terrorized, in my opinion. What's your opinion? Let me know. Moving right along. Immigrant groups push back on, quote, white savior anti-ICE activist tactics. White liberal anti-ICE activists are so annoying. Even the communities they performatively protest for are getting tired of their antics. According to days of messages inside Signal chat rooms reviewed by Fox News Digital, immigrant-led organizations are asking, quote, white saviors to stop with the incessant use of whistleblowing during anti-ICE protests and, quote, reminding them they are not cameo actors in an, quote, action movie against ICE. One of the immigrant led groups, the Washington Immigrant Solidarity Network, WAISN, known locally as in Seattle as WAISN, publicly rebuked the use of whistles in a note on Instagram. Really, really. Okay, I'll take that into advisement. Patriot says the rumor up there is that Tampon Timmy wants to run for state senator. Once a senator steps down so that he could take that spot. I will take that under advisement and keep my eyes out for anything that will actually verify that that's his plan or anything of that nature. We'll see what happens with that. I don't know that with him being so wishy-washy and being a traitor to the United States as well as being a traitor to the very groups he is trying to placate. I don't know if that would garner him a whole lot of votes, but that remains to be seen. Minnesota is a really strange place as far as its people and the way they act and think. The group wrote, quote, WAISN Rapid Response at WAISN was built as grassroots community defense to deepen solidarity across our communities and to ensure immigration enforcement agencies are held accountable by exercising our constitutional right to record law enforcement. Quote, it is not about, come on, it is not about being the loudest, the bravest, the most visible person on the scene or confronting immigration agents. It is a commitment to nonviolence, discipline, and harm reduction, centering the well being of the most vulnerable immigrant and refugee communities in Washington. Quote, rapid response looks different across the country because it is shaped by local conditions and local communities. In Washington state, we have seen whistle tactics increase fear, draw unwanted attention, and interfere with rapid response efforts. Quote, that is why WAISN's approach does not include the use of whistles. This keeps focus on our core purpose, shining light on the human and civil rights violations being experienced when encountering immigration enforcement and supporting our immigrant neighbors in the process. And there is their post on why they don't use whistles. The statement triggered, quote, white saviors. According to Fox News, one person responded by saying nothing would change, quote, no matter what WAISN says. Quote, we believe in whistles. People want whistles. Nothing change, no matter what WAISN says, one participant wrote in a group called WA Whistles. In a striking admission, the Indivisible chapter warned against activists positioning themselves as rescuers, falling into a, quote, white savior dynamic. It added bold-faced type to get its point across. The, quote, the use of whistles is complex, and we recognize this decision may be disappointing. The Indivisible chapter said, it is essential that we avoid falling into a, quote, white savior dynamic, centering ourselves as rescuers, acting on communities rather than with them, or prioritizing feeling helpful over building real shared power. A separate comment derided long term nonprofit workers as drinking the, quote, Kool-Aid, labeling nonviolent disciplined approaches as, quote, Fed coded. So, as usual, the mob is getting out of control. You start a mob and you set them in motion, just like the snowball at the top of the mountain. It's going to get bigger and it's going to grow an attitude of its own and danger of its own, and it is going to get out of your control. You will not be able to stop it or change its direction until it smashes into a village. As so to speak. So, the mob is growing beyond the control of these NGOs and law enforcement and the elected officials who egg them on and throw gasoline on the fire, as it were. So I hope they're happy with the results of that, because it will end up in much more violence and destruction to their fair cities. And I'm here for it. Really, I mean, I'm sorry. They allowed it to happen. They allowed it to continue. They threw gasoline on the fire. They want the violence. They want the chaos. They want the lawlessness. They want every bit of this. So they're going to get it. That is my opinion. And I'm sticking to it. Of course, Democrat Senator John Ossoff from down in my neck of the woods opposes voter ID, but requires ID to get into his campaign rally. Make that make sense. It's racist, they say, to require ID to vote. And yet, they require ID to get into a campaign rally. And yet, they require ID to get the very benefits that they think are going to keep, people voting for them. And yet, it's not racist to require ID for alcohol, cigarettes, any of that stuff. It's not racist to require ID, or a license, which is also an ID, to drive. But it's racist to require ID to vote. Make that make sense. What I just named off is things that their voter base does on a regular basis. Cashes checks, freaking um, gets government benefits, you know, buys alcohol, cigarettes, etc., 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 and they have to have ID for that. But it's racist to require an ID to vote. Oh, you know, they can't get IDs. Oh yeah, they can. If you qualify to vote in most states, the you have to register with the county clerks to vote, and they'll actually provide you with a voter ID. It's specifically for voting, but it is a local government issued ID proving that you are who you say you are. So I mean, you can get a free ID. It doesn't cost anything to register to vote. It doesn't cost anything for the government voter ID. It is free. I know right here in John Ossoff's state, here in Georgia, you can go down and register to vote and request an ID, and they will provide you with one. It doesn't cost not a penny. Just your time to go down to the office and fill out the little thing, and then they can provide you with a voter ID. And painless. They don't cut off an arm or anything. You don't pluck out your eyeballs or anything, nothing like that. You ain't got to take 20 lashes with a whip. None of that. No blood drawn. So yeah, make it make sense. In fact, I was told, I don't know how true it is because I've never had to avail myself of it. I was told that you can actually go down to the DMV and request a voter ID, and they'll provide you with one at the DMV as well. I don't know how true that is, but I was told that you can go to the DMV and get a voter ID because, well, they're already printing IDs. You can get a state issued ID like mine. You can get driver's licenses, and I am told you can also get a free one time a year. Um, Only once a year. You can't, keep getting a new one and keep getting a new one because you lost your old one or whatever. Um, you get one free one. After that, they cost a little bit. Um, and it has your picture on it, and it's a voter ID, and most places will take that voter ID as identification for like cashing a check or buying alcohol or any of that stuff. Because it is issued by the state government. So but anyway, let's get into this article here. Like the rest of his party, Senator John Ossoff of Georgia opposes the idea of voter ID. But you better have an ID if you're planning to attend his campaign rally this weekend. This is true of the Democrat National Convention as well. People have pointed out for years that you can't get into the biggest Democrat party on the planet without a photo ID. Somehow, this double standard is lost on every member of their party. Senator Ossoff to require ID at campaign rally while he fights ID requirements to vote. Isn't it ironic? Senator John Ossoff insists on security when he interacts with the American public, but not when Americans cast their ballots. The Georgia senator is requiring government issued identification for members of the public to attend his election rally Saturday, while opposing similar requirements to cast a ballot in elections. Ossoff has emerged as one of the strongest fighters against election security measures, not only opposing the SAVE Act to require government issued identification verification to vote, but even introducing legislation to enshrine into laws the right to vote without proving one's identity. His bill, the misleadingly labeled Right to Vote Act, would make it harder for states to ensure election integrity by implementing voter ID. Quote, John Ossoff is about to vote against the SAVE Act, but is requiring a government-issued ID to get into his rally in Atlanta tomorrow. A campaign account for Representative Mike Collins, a candidate in the Republican primary to take on Ossoff, posted Friday, quote, there should be more security in American elections than there is to listen to John Ossoff's lies. At the bottom of this graphic, it clearly states that a valid photo ID is needed to get into the event. Mike Collins' War Room on X posted, John Ossoff is about to vote against the SAVE Act, but is requiring a government-issued ID to get into his rally in Atlanta tomorrow. There should be more security in American elections than there is to listen to John Ossoff's lies. And here is the rally with Senator John Ossoff in Atlanta. Click that to see full event details. Contact Team Ossoff at rally@election.com. Oh, at electjohn.com. Additional info, guest invitation, and arrival instructions. Rally for Our Republic with Senator John Ossoff. We are excited to welcome you to attend the Rally for Our Republic in Atlanta with John Ossoff on Saturday, February 7th. I would assume that the part of the graphic that was mentioned is hidden here. But if you click on it, I'm sure that it will be seen. Or it's probably under see a full event details. On a related note, Representative Jamie Raskin doesn't think women are capable of obtaining a valid ID. Now that's a straight up insult to all the women out there, whether Republican or Democrat. America on X posted Democrat Representative Jamie Raskin says he doesn't support voter ID because, quote, it might violate the 19th Amendment, which gives women the right to vote. Does he think women aren't smart enough to get an ID?
What's wrong with the SAVE Act? What's wrong with it is that it might violate the 19th Amendment, which gives women the right to vote, because you've got to show that all of your different IDs match. So if you're a woman who's gotten married and you've changed your name to your husband's name, but so now your current name is different from your name at birth, now you've got to go ahead and document that. You need an affidavit explaining why. And
should have been doing that anyway.
All of these the troubles in order to keep people from voting when none of the states that are actually running the elections are telling us that there's any problem.
Women should have been keeping up with that anyway. You know, updating your IDs when you get married or get divorced and things like that is a actual requirement by law. You know, you are required to update any name changes, um, that occur from marriage, divorce, or anything else for that matter. It's actually a requirement by law, so they should have been keeping up with that anyway. I know there are a lot of women who continue to use their IDs and driver's licenses or whatever under their maiden name, and some women don't actually take their husband's last name and etc. But if there is a name change, you are actually, according to the law, you're required to update your identification to reflect said name change. That prevents fraudulent activity. There is only one reason a political party would oppose voter IDs, and it's to cheat. That's exactly right. The only reason they would be in opposition of voter IDs is simply because they want to cheat. They want to have people voting that should not be voting. And I wonder who that is. I wouldn't know. I have no clue. I have no idea who that might be. Do y'all have any idea who that might be? Let me know in the chat. Pakistanis who have never been to U.S. are voting in California elections from inside Pakistan. It's a fact. San Joaquin County Sheriff's Captain says voting records show people outside of the country in Pakistan are allowed to vote in the California elections. The sheriff's captain revealed this during a press conference in September of 2025. Sheriff's captain, quote, "The way the voting system is structured, we see quite a few flaws. You're able to register and cast a vote if you don't live in the country, as evidence of his brother in Pakistan." I think we have some evidence of 2 or 3 other people out of the country that are voting or have voted. Is that correct? Yeah, approximately 2 or 3 other people out of the country, as well as people residing outside of the district. The online voter registration system, it seems to be an honor system. Anybody can put information in there to register a vote. All you have to do is click a box and say that you're not lying, and then you'll get an email from the Secretary of State or something in the mail saying, thank you for registering to vote, and there you are. Once you're on the voter rolls, anytime an election comes around, guess what? You get mailed a ballot, right? You get mailed something to vote. So we found that a little bit problematic.
The way the voting system is structured, we see quite a few flaws. You're able to register even if and cast a vote if you don't live in the country, as evident of his brother in Pakistan. I think we have some evidence of 2 or 3 other people out of the country that voted. Is that correct?
Yeah, approximately 2 or 3 other people out of the country, as well as people residing outside of the district.
Okay. The online voter registration system, it seems to be an honor system. Anybody can put information in there to register to vote. All you have to do is click a box and say that you're not lying, and then you'll get an email from the Secretary of State or something in the mail saying thank you for registering to vote, And there you are. Once you're on the voter rolls, anytime an election comes around, guess what? You get mailed a ballot, right? You get mailed something to vote. So we found that a little bit problematic.
Problematic. Downright illegal, not just problematic. Grok has more on these Pakistani votes. The query, quote, San Joaquin Sheriff Pakistan vote refers to a widely discussed case involving the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office in California and allegations of voter fraud linked to Pakistan in a local election. In 2023, the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office, led by Sheriff Patrick Withrow, arrested and announced charges against former Lodi City Council member Shakir Khan for election fraud related to the 2020 Lodi County City Council election. Khan, who won his seat by a narrow margin, 282 votes, was accused of various felonies, including fraudulent voter registration, submitting false nomination petitions, aiding and abetting fraudulent voting, procuring and assisting unqualified people to vote. The investigation, initially tied to separate probes into illegal gambling, money laundering, tax evasion, and unemployment fraud, uncovered 41 sealed, completed mail-in ballots at Khan's home. Around 70 to 71 voter registrations tied to his address, phone, or email, far exceeding normal for a single household. Some registrations allegedly involved people not living in the U.S., including claims that individuals, or at least one case tied to Khan's family in Pakistan, were registered and may have voted via mail-in ballots. Khan targeted members of the local Pakistani immigrant community, including elderly individuals unfamiliar with U.S. voting processes, pressuring them, forging signatures, filling out ballots, and submitting fraudulent registrations. Some victims were reportedly unaware their information was used to vote for him. Khan pleaded no contest to dozens of felony charges, including election fraud, in early 2024 and resigned from his council seat. He faced a total of around 77 criminal charges across multiple categories. So, there you have it. Now, through loopholes in the voter registration system, Pakistanis in Pakistan are voting in California elections. So, wow. That is crazy. I really think that that Trump actually had a good idea with nationalizing the federal elections. At least they can control that. Federal elections, including presidential elections. I do believe that would be a good idea, if not all elections. Because some elections are intended to be handled by the state because they're elections for state officials. But national elections of any kind, I think, should be handled by the federal government, and I think Trump had a good idea when he floated that idea. We are actually only country that doesn't have nationalized federal elections. Most every other country in the world, the federal government in that country runs their national elections. So, We're kind of behind the times, you know what I mean? And I think we need to catch up in certain areas, such as elections. You know, we need to find ways, such as nationalizing our federal elections, um, to curb or eliminate, preferably eliminate, all election fraud from our federal elections. Now, it's up to the states to deal with their state elections and any fraud that may be occurring in those. So that's my opinion, anyway. And I'm sticking to it. What do you all think? What is your opinion? Let me know in that chat. And if you're watching on replay, let me know in the comments. I do read those comments. So. Up next, an update on the National Guardsman Andrew Wolf's remarkable recovery following attack by Afghan national. You remember I reported on this the attack on Andrew Wolf, this guy in the picture here, and female guardsman Sarah Beckstrom, and they were both shot in the head by an Afghani national who, intent on terrorism, attacked the two guardsmen as they were guarding an entrance to the subway, I believe it was. And Sarah Beckstrom fell victim to her injuries. She passed away. Andrew Wolf, however, survived and is fighting like a champ, like a true soldier. In December of 2025, the Gateway Pundit reported, and so did I, on the shooting of two National Guard members near the White House that killed 20-year-old Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom and left National Guardsman 24-year-old Air Force Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf in critical condition. The suspect, 29-year-old Afghan national Ramanullah Lakhanwal, entered the country under Joe Biden in 2021. Lakhanwal has been formally charged with murder and other crimes. Wolf's recovery has continued to move forward, and by mid-December, he was, excuse me, y'all. Sorry about that. Long day. He was moved in mid-December. He was moved from the hospital to an inpatient rehab facility. On Tuesday, Wolf shared his first public message and thanked supporters for their prayers and support. He also shared his determination to work towards recovery. The man is soldiering forward, so to speak, in his recovery, and it's my understanding that he is making great strides, and his recovery has been described as no less than miraculous. Per West Virginia Press, Andrew shared, quote, "I'm grateful to be alive. Thank you for your prayers and support." Wolf wrote, quote, "It's all been overwhelming, and I'm trying still and determined. It's been hard to go through something like this. Thank you for everything." His mother, Melody Wolf, joined Fox News to share details about his recovery, saying, quote, "He's doing well. We're a little over 2 months out from the injury, and he's, in my words, ahead of schedule." Quote, "He's just finished a big milestone of 6 weeks of intense rehab, touching on things from physical therapy, recreational therapy, to the big one, speech therapy. He's had to relearn how to talk, y'all. And that's got to suck. He is affected heavily by aphasia, which is a language disorder. Not something I had ever heard of before this, but it affects your brain and memory. It affects your ability to comprehend language, to understand language, as well as your memory and etc. A lot of different things. Um, Quote, he's working through that with a therapist, and he finished an inpatient program. And we just moved him into a residential program on Monday. So that will be about 8 to 12 weeks. And he is already seeing a nice change in him because it is kind of from a hospital setting to a more residential setting. So he's a little bit happier about that. And here is a video.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
So, Melody, how's your son doing?
He's doing well. We're a little over 2 months out from the injury, and he's, in my words, ahead of schedule. He just finished a big milestone with 6 weeks of intense rehab, touching on things from physical therapy, rec therapy, to the bigger one, speech therapy. He is affected heavily by aphasia, which is a language disorder. It's not something I had ever heard of before this, but it affects your brain and memory. He's working through that with the therapist, and he finished an inpatient program, and we just moved him into a residential program on Monday. So that'll be about 8 to 12 weeks, and I'm already seeing a nice change in him, because it's kind of from a hospital setting to a more residential setting. So he's a little bit happier about that.
Yes.
Allow me momentarily to do this real quick. If you perform 2 Rumble Wallet, that's my instructions. Sorry. They can freeze your accounts, shut off your cards, lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks don't protect you, they control you. That's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, real gold on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you can get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. This isn't an IOU. This is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. Now that's power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet, peer to peer, and outside the banking system. No permissions, no middlemen, no cancel button. This wallet is yours forever. So, go to Rumble, wallet.rumble.com and get your Rumble Wallet today. You can do all kinds of stuff with Rumble Wallet. You can buy your stable coin. You can sell your stable coin. You can cash out and get that in real money. You can cash your Tether Gold for actual real gold, as I just said. And you can tip me and any other creator that has the Rumble Wallet tip jar. Um, you'll notice it down below. And by the way, I don't have to be streaming for you to do so. You can tip me at any time. Just visit my channel page and you'll see the tip jar right there on the page. Click that and you can give me a tip in Bitcoin, Tether, whatever you want to tip me in. And it'll go straight to me. Just go to wallet.rumble.com. Link is in the description, or you can use the QR code on the screen right there. That's wallet.rumble.com and get your Rumble wallet today. Link is in the description below, as I said. Okay, thank you for bearing with me as I did that. And let's continue on as we were. So, Wolf is scheduled to undergo a cranioplasty, a routine skull reconstruction surgery, in early March. So, he is apparently still got some major damage to his skull, and they're going to fix that. They're going to rebuild it, better, stronger, all that good stuff, like the $6 million man. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro spoke with Wolf's family and shared more about his remarkable recovery, noting, quote, "The miracle continues." And here is Jeanine Pirro. I'm happy to share an update on Staff Sergeant Andy Wolf, the brave National Guard airman shot here in D.C. the day before Thanksgiving. I spoke to his parents earlier, and Andy is scheduled for another surgery soon. He's doing well thanks to great medical care. And here she is.
It's Judge Jeanine. You may recall that right before Thanksgiving, the defendant by the name of Lackenwall came into the district and ended up shooting Sarah Beckstrom as well as Andy Wolf, both of them members of the National Guard. Sarah, unfortunately, was murdered, and as a result of that, this Lackenwall is now charged with murder and several other counts. But Andy Wolf is now continuing to recover, and the miracle continues. I spoke with his mother and his father today. Andy is scheduled for another surgery. I think it's called a cranioplasty, where they're going to try to repair the hole in his skull from the shooting that was a consequence of the shooting, but that he's doing very well. And I just want you to know that Andy was 24 when he was shot, but on February 10th, he will be 25 years old. And I want to ask you to continue to say all of those prayers on his behalf. A combination of great medical care at Walter Reed initially, and a great family that is supporting him, as well as his determination and his fighting force within him, and your prayers have made it pretty much a good news story today about Andy Wolf. So we're very happy for him, and we want you to continue to say prayers and wish him happy birthday.
And there you go. As I said, some reports that I've heard have described his recovery as nothing short of miraculous. So I wish him well and many more birthdays ongoing, and I'm wishing him a speedy recovery from that surgery that he is going to have, as well as a continued speedy recovery for all of his injuries that have stemmed from that bullet to his brain. I've known people that have taken bullets to the head, to the brain, and I've watched their recoveries, and that's why I'm familiar with aphasia. I know someone who took a bullet to the head and had to completely relearn how to speak. The aphasia effects make it so that it's difficult to comprehend language, speech, etc. Including he had to learn how to read again too, as well. Um, so it's almost like having to go back to kindergarten, sort of, um, except that you know that at one time you were able to do all this stuff, and you have the frustration of having to relearn how to do it. I'm sure he um, had to relearn how to do things such as walk, feed himself, etc. Um, motor skills, etc. Hand-eye coordination, things like that, as well. I do understand how difficult it is to go through something like that. Um, of course, I've not had any family members, that have had that issue, but like I said, I have known people who have been through that. So I wish him well, and you all continue to pray for Andy Wolf, and hopefully God will see fit to guide his recovery further along, and he will recover fully, and you will never know that he was ever shot in the head. Um, let's move on. I included this story simply because I thought it was funny. Anti-ICE rioters pelt what they think is an ICE vehicle with dildos. End up humiliated when they realize the actual truth. They were pelting one of their own with the dildos, and etc. And I want to just skip to the video, and then I'll go over the story with you. Um, Here we go. We have to actually click on it, and I'll share that with you. Okay, let's run it to the beginning, and I'm going to make it bigger for you guys. And she went, the one that threw that clear one, she was trying to stick it when she threw it. So.
Get out of the roadway.
They gave him his sign back that he had as they took it and tried to rip it up. They were doing all that before they noticed the big sign in the back said Nuremberg 2.0. And now they're all humiliated. They're having to pick up their dildos, and everybody grabbed the dildos.
Oh, this guy is Jolly Green Ginger.
I think that's funny. Personally, myself. And there is also, what the heck? My page just glitched. There is also another angle of that video. Let's
You see my fucking sign?
You hear him? You see my fucking sign? Then he puts his other sign out. They all have eyes. This girl goes over and takes his sign from him. Right here. There you go. She takes his sign. Another person tries to tear it up. They pick it up and try to tear it up. And then old dude right here, he notices his sign. He tells them, "Y'all quit, y'all quit." Oh, Lord have mercy. I think that's hilarious. And that's not the first time that they've attacked somebody on their own side. On their own side, I mean, um, there was an incident in Minneapolis where there was a roving group walking all over town and just randomly attacking people that they think might be a Trump supporter or a member of ICE or something like that. They attacked this one guy and he's on the ground, trying to protect himself, and he's like, I'm one of you all. I'm one of you all. And they finally stop and back off from him, help him up, and all that. He's one of us. And somebody in the back of the crowd goes, "How do we know?" Well, you don't. That's why you don't go around randomly attacking people. I mean, but they have not even close to learned that lesson. So, yeah, a bizarre scene unfolded as you just witnessed in Minneapolis on Saturday as clueless anti ICE rioters received a surprise during their tantrum against President Trump's immigration policy. As the New York Post reported, rioters gathered around fencing at the Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building to protest the shooting deaths of their leftist comrades, Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Had a typo right there and misspelled his name, but it is Preddy. Several videos showed them tossing dildos at the building while officers picked up the sex toys. Agitators also hurled dildos at several vehicles affiliated with ICE officers. Fortunately, no vehicles were damaged or ICE officers injured. Others stuck dildos on their heads to protest ICE, making them look like even bigger idiots. A few also showed their quote tolerance by hurling racial slurs at Hispanic and black ICE agents. It's okay as long as they're ICE to be racist, huh? I don't think it's okay in any situation to be racist, but apparently to the left, it's okay to be openly racist. They're the party of racism, by the way. So it's okay to be openly racist if you're being racist to an ICE agent or a Trump supporter. Later in the day, an unintentionally funny moment occurred that sent conservatives into fits of laughter. Video captured by independent journalist Becca Brannon showed anti ICE agitators throwing and slamming dildos on what they believe was an ICE truck. There was just one problem. Anybody with eyes could see that the truck had a few noticeable signs displayed on the back, including one reading Nuremberg 2.0. He was, of course, falsely comparing ICE's efforts to deport illegal aliens to Nazi Germany. He could be heard repeatedly yelling, quote, "Do you see my effing sign?" As you heard on the video that I just showed you, as the protesters surrounded the vehicle and pelted it with dildos. Quote, "I'm on your side," he added. The idiotic agitators finally backed off after realizing the truth, then removed the dildos in shame. After a few more words were exchanged, the driver exited the area. And I just showed you that. It takes a special kind of stupid to wake up in the morning to protest in such an embarrassing fashion, unless they are being paid quite handsomely. And they are. They are being paid quite handsomely. So, but I thought this was just hilarious. And I figured I would share that with you all. And with that, I'm going to ask for, is there any questions, comments, suggestions, ideas, whatever, from you all? If there is no more conversation, etc., then that's the end of this show. So give you all a moment if you want to chime in with questions, comments, etc. We can discuss those. Um, and if not, that is okay as well. Um, I will just simply call this a show and go ahead and sign off. So since there doesn't seem to be any further conversation, I'm going to thank you all so much for coming and watching this show. Thank you to those who did participate in the chat, to Patriot and Marilyn and Empty Pockets Podcast and Larry Barnett, etc. To all of you, thank you so much for participating in the chat. I love it when my viewers get involved in the show. And God bless you all. As I say every episode, God bless you all, and I mean that. And God bless America. Lord knows this country needs all the blessings it can get and all the prayers. Pray for America that it can get. And do me a favor, if you all would, before you leave, do me a favor and go down below and hit that thumbs up on both platforms. It's a thumbs up on both Rumble and YouTube, no matter what you want to call it. It's still a thumbs up. So hit that thumbs up. Show me some love. If you're not already following the channel, please do hit that follow button, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, and smash that notification bell. It's the same on both platforms. Treat it like it owes you money and refuses to pay. Beat the crap out of it, and that way you will know when I come on. Come back and see me Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. For more Big Tony Speaks. For now, this has been Big Tony Speaks. I am your host, Big Tony, and I'm out of here. You all have a great evening, and I will see you next time. And just remember, Big Tony will speak on it. Later on, y'all. You have a great one.